Want to invest more this year, but not quite sure how to get started? Keep listening and we'll show you how to take the next steps. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Brittne Halford.
And I'm Dr. Lisha Taylor.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time. Hey, Lisha, one of the most important financial tasks we do as doctors is protect ourselves, which means getting the right insurance. I recall purchasing my insurance policy just a few days before I graduated from residency. What was your experience?
So I got my insurance when I graduated from medical school right before I started residency. I actually called a few agents, but I had the best service from Pradeep Auto at PKA Insurance Group. He was super responsive and personable. Unlike some of the other agents, Pradeep actually got me quotes from all the major companies and actually took the time to explain the nuances in each of their policies. What I loved most is that he wasn't just this way for me. Whenever I would send one of my friends to him, he would not only speak to them, but he'd also let them know where to go or who to contact if there were better options or discounts available.
At PKA Insurance Group, Pradeep Auto and Matthew Peterson are independent brokers focusing on disability and life insurance. They excel in securing coverage for physicians and other medical professionals. Discounts on disability insurance can range from 10 to 40% depending on your situation. And there is now an A-plus rated carrier offering up to $10 million of life insurance without lapse. If you are very healthy with limited to no medical issues, approval is likely in 5 minutes. Reach out to PKA Insurance to discuss your disability or life insurance needs at www.pkainsurance.com or call 1-800-258-1018.
Lisha, oh my gosh. So I know that you all got a snow day in Atlanta recently. My niece was sending me pictures and you all had more snow than we had in Boston. How are you doing over there in the cold weather?
I'm doing good. I like snow. I think it's fun. What I do not like is the aftermath of snow, right? When the snow melts and then it freezes over and there's black ice, you got to scrape the ice off your car. I used to live in Washington, D.C., and I said, nope, not for me. This life is not for me. It required me to wake up earlier. Well, at the time, I didn't even have a car. My roommate had the car, and it would require us to wake up earlier, go out to the cold, scrape ice off her car, drive really slowly, that sort of thing. And so I'm not a cold weather sort of person. That being said, I did enjoy the snow day in Atlanta. I did enjoy the snow day in Atlanta, mainly because it snowed, I think, maybe like 3 to 4 inches. And so it's just enough where you could kind of play with the snow, but not too much. And so I loved seeing all the videos and photos of people on Instagram just building snowmen. People are so creative. People were building snowmen and snow women. People were having snowball fights, making snow angels. My little niece was having a blast. There were people actually trying to drive in the snow and sliding with their cars.
Oh my.
I also saw a substantial amount of people that had skis and snowboards. And I'm like, we live in Atlanta. Why are there so many people that are really prepared for this? One of the large parks in Atlanta called Piedmont Park, they basically turned it into like the bunny slope. People were making jokes like it's Colorado, Georgia right now. People brought out their skis and their snowboards, having a grand old time. And there were so many questions like, where did all these people get skis and snowboards? Like, we did not realize that this was something that people just had on deck. What I believe is happening is that people just who take frequent ski vacations just were ready to go for this ski and snow experience. Everyone seemed to have had a great time. Work was canceled, of course. Any job that wasn't initially canceled ended up being canceled because the doctors were like, yep, not going in today. It was fun. I had the day off from work. I actually spent the majority of that day doing work and on meetings, but sort of enjoyed it vicariously through others. And one of the things that I really loved about it is that the weather warmed up the next day. And so they had the roads clear. It didn't ice over. There wasn't any black ice. It just was pretty. Driving on the interstate looking like a winter wonderland. And it didn't negatively impact my life. I didn't have to scrape any snow or ice off my car because my car was in a parking garage that was covered. And I was like, wow, Lisha, we have really come up. I remember those days where it was not so convenient. And now it just is pretty and I can get on with my life. And so it was a great snow day here in Atlanta. And hopefully we can get another one coming up soon.
That is so funny to hear your narrative of the snow day in Atlanta. I remember when we lived in Atlanta for 2 years and there was a threat of snow and everything shut down. And literally, it was like a flurry, and people were outside taking pictures, and it was just a little bit of frost on the grass. I'm like, really, people, coming from Michigan and living in the Midwest and now in Boston, I'm just prepared for the snow. This is just something that happens here. I recall when I was in residency at WashU, there was a really heavy snowstorm. And of course, we can't call out somebody needs to man the hospital. And so we had one colleague who had like 4-wheel drive, and she drove around to pick everybody up and drive us to the hospital. So I wonder what the hospitalists in Atlanta were feeling on the snow day, because they still had to go to work. All right. So as we talk about snow days and people kind of still driving and swerving, it reminds me that sometimes we can have those money mishaps and kind of swerve in our finances. As I'm reflecting on this, I'm trying to think of any money mishaps that have come up for me. Oh, actually, I do have a money mishap that might vibe with you and other people here as a mistake. Is I've been opening new credit cards so that I can do this whole credit card hacking. And one of the credit cards that I opened had a limit. And although I did not go over the maximum limit, I used about 80% of my credit utilization. And when I checked my credit score recently, my credit score had dropped a little bit. Now, I felt a certain way. I felt a certain way because my credit score had dropped. I don't know why I felt like this, because your credit score really doesn't mean anything. It's just like a snapshot in time. And if I'm not using my credit for anything, then it's like, why does this score even matter? I wholeheartedly understand that logically, but emotionally and psychologically, I'm like, Brittne, you're supposed to be doing better than this or maintaining this status. What I realized is that I had used about 80% of the available credit on that credit card when they sent the information to the credit bureaus. Of course, I paid it off in full when the payment was due, but I was like, oh, okay, that's why. And so it just brought back to my remembrance that, okay, it's not just 30% of your overall credit utilization, but it's also 30%. You want to keep it under 30% for every single credit card as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so for those who may not be aware, if you get a credit card and your credit limit on that credit card is $10,000, for example, you want to make sure that you are not using more than 30%. So not using more than $3,000 of that $10,000. One way to sort of get around that, Brittne, is to just pay off the credit card in full before the billing cycle ends. If you do that, then they'll always report that you have a $0 balance. And so that won't be an issue. The other thing to sort of be reassured by is next month that score will increase. Usually when you take out a new credit card, it drops a little bit and then it sort of increases over time because you've got more credit overall available to you. So slight money mishap, but rest assured it will be short-lived.
Yes.
Along those lines of credit cards, I recently successfully canceled one of my business credit cards. I, like you, take out a decent amount of credit cards just to get the points and to utilize that for free travel and flights and hotels and things like that. And one of the credit cards, I actually decided to cancel. I canceled it because it had a pretty high annual fee, and I already had a similar version of that card elsewhere. And so I said, you know what? I am not sure that I am going to continue to get as much benefit out of this card as I need to justify the annual fee. And so I canceled it. That doesn't mean that I don't have many credit cards. I still have quite a substantial amount. I still plan on taking out more in the future. It's just that that specific card was no longer serving a purpose for me. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, is to take inventory of our financial life and seeing, do the things that we pay for, do the credit cards that we have, do the accounts that we have, do they still serve a purpose for you? And sort of overcoming that inertia to keep things the same, and instead taking charge and making some changes. So that's sort of my money confession for the week.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've learned about that is you can also reach out to the company to see if you can downgrade the card instead of closing the account completely, like just downgrading it to one that does not have an annual fee or a lower annual fee, and see if the perks work out. So I love that we're really transparent on this podcast, and you might be experiencing some of the same money mishaps that Lisha and I have experienced. And we just want to say that you can recover, keep moving forward. So don't allow that to paralyze you.
As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income. because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long-term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
Well, Lisha, in this financial focus this week, we're going to be talking about investing. And girl, I know you love investing. You know, I'm kind of like a passive investor. I like to check in, change some things around, and then set it and forget it until I check in the next time. So I am super excited to learn what your strategy is for investing and how people can get started with investing.
Yep. And so we sort of touched on this last time, but I will sort of take it from there. Usually when I am teaching about investing to physicians, I always start with a stepwise approach. And for me, that includes 5 steps, right? So whenever you're starting to get started investing, you want to make some changes this year, I usually walk people through a 5-step process, which I'm happy to explain today. Step 1 is to take inventory. Where are you at currently? Are you investing? What accounts are you investing through? How much money do you have invested? What kind of investments have you already purchased? And more importantly in that is why. And I know those are a lot of questions, but I think it helps to understand where you currently are. And again, we touched on this last time, but some people may not consider themselves investing because they don't necessarily consider retirement account contributions as investments when actually they are. And so what retirement accounts have you had access to in the past that you've contributed to? Maybe those contributions have been automatic, so you didn't realize that you were contributing when you really were. What jobs do you have now? Do you have access to those retirement accounts? Log into those accounts, write down how much money you got in there. It may surprise you. Hopefully it's a good surprise, not a bad surprise. IRAs, log into those, see how much money you have. Maybe it might benefit you to have all of your accounts located at the same brokerage so you can log in just one time and see all of your accounts listed. That's what I have going on with my investment accounts. But I want to ask you, as you start taking inventory, do you know what you are invested in and do you know why you are invested in those things? I find that a lot of physicians and a lot of high income people outsource this part of their lives and they do not know what they are invested in and why. And I think that's really important for you to understand. Again, no one will care more about your money than you do. And so you want to make sure that you understand what is happening, even if you are not the one making things happen. So step 1, I always say, is to take inventory, figure out where you're starting from.
I think that's a great step. If you don't know where you are, how can you figure out where you're going? And it helps to also decrease the overwhelm. What I feel in investing is that there is some hesitancy because it's not something that we've been trained on. There is some reluctance to do it ourselves because we might not know exactly how to do it or where things are. And so information, at least for me, builds my confidence. And so taking inventory is gathering information. And I just want to encourage y'all that there is data. It's called the SPIVA report, and it's S&P 500 versus active investors. And basically what it looks at as investing in index fund versus paying a financial advisor who's investing in mutual funds or changing all of the asset allocations and purchasing various equities, et cetera, and how they perform. And what data has shown over like 20 plus years is that if you kind of set it and forget it, investing in an index fund, then you're going to be about equivalent to using a financial advisor. So why do I bring this up? The reason why I bring this up is because this is something that you can do. Taking this first step of really understanding your accounts is gathering information, and then you can take the next step that Lisha is going to talk about. And so you don't necessarily need a financial advisor to do each of these steps for you. And studies have shown that even just investing, and we'll talk about the strategy to investing, but investing very simply can be equal to or even outperform, which is what the data has shown, outperform delegating this task to a financial advisor. So this is something that you can definitely do.
Yep. I love that. I want you to feel empowered to take charge of your finances and not feel as though you have to hire somebody else to do that. If you choose to hire somebody, that is fine. But I still think regardless of whether you do it yourself or you hire somebody else, it behooves you to actually understand what's going on. Because even if you're going to hire somebody else, you still want to know what questions to ask, right? How are you going to vet him or her to make sure that they are going to do right by you? You can't just go by personality and feel, right? You need to have some objective questions that you ask and a benchmark that you compare their answers to. And so it still helps you to make sure that you understand what's going on. So step one, as we're getting started investing, is taking inventory, figuring out where you are. Step two is to clarify your why. Why are you investing? Why do you want to invest? The reason why you want to invest, right? Your why will determine how you invest and what accounts you use to invest, right? So if you tell me I'm investing for retirement, I'm investing so I can build wealth over time, then I might suggest different accounts to use and different investments to make than if you tell me, oh, I'm investing for my kids' college education, that's in 18 years, or I want to invest for a future house or a future wedding, or I want to invest for an upcoming work transition to go part-time. So the reasons why you are investing will likely determine which accounts you want to use, which accounts you want to prioritize, and what investments you want to make. So you want to clarify your why. And it's okay to have multiple whys, right? Maybe you have multiple goals. Maybe you say, hey, Lisha, I want to invest in my kids' college. I want to invest for my own retirement. I want to invest so I can go and work part-time. I want to invest for a future house. That's fine. Just write down those goals that you have. Write down the order or the date by which you want to achieve them. And then we can work backwards. We can say, okay, given this goal, maybe this account would be best. Given that goal, maybe that account would be best. Or these investments you may want to consider, those investments you may want to consider. But the answer, or the big part of this, is to clarify your why, right? What are you investing for?
That is so important because when you think about your overall financial plan and your financial goals, one, I just want to say is that it is fine for you to change them. And I would say that it is important for you to reevaluate if you need to change them. That has been so critical for me to appraise how am I investing, because each account has a different purpose for me, right? If I'm trying to save on taxes today versus saving on taxes in the future, I might choose a different account. There's a different why there. If I'm saving for my kids' future, okay, how am I doing that? And then how much do I actually need to save for my kids' college funds? What happens if I overfund that account? And so these are all the considerations that you want to have. And to know that there has to be evolution as you're going through your investments and clarifying your why. It might be that you want to do it all on your own right now, but at a later date, you want to involve a financial advisor, or that you want to involve a financial advisor now and do it on your own later. And so I think clarifying your why and also kind of like how you're feeling about it is really important, especially when we think about women and investments. Women are better investors because we don't make all the sales and do all of the switches as men do. However, we invest less. And I think part of the reasons why we invest less is because we don't have a really great clarity on our why and confidence in how we're doing it. So understanding the purpose of why you're investing in one account versus the other, why you're investing, the amount that you're investing is really important.
Yeah. Once you take inventory of where you are, once you clarify why you are investing, understanding that you may have different investment goals, the next step is to prioritize the right accounts. I liken investing and using accounts to saving money and using banks. When you get paid from your main job, that money gets deposited into a bank account. And through that bank account, you can pay your bills, spend it, give that money away. Well, investing sort of works a similar way. Whenever you want to invest, you go through a brokerage firm and you have investment accounts. And the interesting thing here is there are different kinds of investment accounts, right? We've got retirement accounts, we've got non-retirement accounts. In the category of retirement accounts, we've got 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, solo 401ks, SEP IRAs, all kinds of stuff, right? And so you need to make sure that you are using the right accounts. And which accounts you prioritize over others really does depend on your investment goals. Oftentimes, I tell people maybe a simple account to start with is the one that you already have access to, which is the one through your job. Maybe your job has a 401k or a 403b if you work for a nonprofit institution that you may want to consider starting investing in. Maybe you want to open up a Roth IRA and start there. But really, you've got to prioritize the right account. If you are somebody who is investing for retirement, for example, then obviously you want to consider a retirement account. If you're someone who's investing for the long term, you may also want to consider a retirement account. And so as we start thinking about the different kinds of accounts that you want to use, remember the ones that you may have access to, right? We talked about retirement accounts, also a HSA, so a healthcare savings account. If you're a physician and you work for a nonprofit institution, you may have access to a 457B account. If you are in solo practice or do locums work or have some 1099 income, maybe you can create and open a solo 401k or a cash balance plan, those sorts of things. I know for me, one of my big investment goals is to have the option to retire early if I want, to be able to build and acquire a substantial amount of wealth. And so the accounts that I prioritize are my retirement accounts. And so one of the things that I do is I make sure that I can contribute the maximum each year to my work retirement account. That's my 403b. I make sure that I do my backdoor Roth IRA each year. I do it each year in January. In fact, I just did it last week. So I do my backdoor Roth IRA each year, and then I make sure that I contribute throughout the year to my solo 401k for any 1099 income that I get. And then at the end of the year, if I've got extra money that I want to invest, I will invest that money in a taxable account. So that's sort of my waterfall of the different kinds of accounts that I use to invest. Brittne, what does yours look like?
Yeah. So for us, we use similar accounts that you've highlighted. When I think about our investment strategy, I also got to think about the taxes, right? And so I try to fill up all of the buckets when I think about taxes. So our pre-tax buckets, those are some of the accounts that you mentioned, like a solo 401k, cash balance plan, 403b. We also use a 457b, and that falls into our pre-tax account, also an HSA. And then I think about my post-tax bucket. So one of the post-tax accounts that we do is we do a backdoor Roth IRA every year. And so that's our post-tax bucket. And then I think about our taxable bucket. So this is where we're doing our brokerage accounts. That is where we're investing a lot just independently outside of a retirement. And then our never tax bucket, which can be an HSA if we use it for qualified expenses and retirement. And then our daughter Brooke, of course, has like a Roth IRA. So I just try to think about, okay, how can I fill up all of these buckets and use the accounts appropriately, not just to maximize our savings and investing, but making sure that it's also working for us for a tax purpose and it meets our why. When thinking about the why, I think for me, this really comes to head in our investments because one of the accounts that I have utilized is our Work 457b account, which has helped us to decrease our taxes. However, with that account, it has some nuances where it's not strictly a retirement account, so I could get access to that money if I leave the job, but it also has some restrictions. And I'm just considering, okay, could I use that money better by investing in real estate properties and not have that account be part of the mix for us this year? Also, when I'm thinking about retirement accounts versus having flexibility with a taxable account of choosing my own investments and also being able to access that money if we need to, that's one of the things that I am clarifying in what is my why. Like, why do I want to use one account versus the next? And sometimes prioritizing flexibility over saving on taxes today is important. And I think that this is really, really valuable and worthwhile. And then in addition to our investments and retirement accounts, we're also investing in oil and gas. And so that is a very separate account that serves a different purpose for us with our why. So, that clarifying your why, Lisha, as you highlighted in step 2, is imperative. And I can say honestly that we have transitioned some investments because we had different goals that we were trying to achieve. And so I think that that clarification of your why is really important, and try to also have foresight of what things are coming up for you in the future that you might need to protect yourself from, or you might want to leverage so that you can achieve your goals faster.
Yep. Once you've figured out which accounts you want to use, the next step, and it's a big step, is to determine the type of investments you want to make, whether that's investments through the stock market by buying stocks, bonds, index funds, that sort of thing, whether it is investments in real estate. Maybe you want to buy properties, maybe you want to rent out properties, maybe you want to do some real estate syndications, buy some land, that sort of thing. Whether it is an investment in a business, whether you want to start your own business, invest in other businesses, become a partner in some startups, or other alternatives. Maybe that is in collectibles like art. Maybe that is in commodities like oil and gas or different forms of energy. Or maybe that's in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Selenium and things like that. But you want to determine the kind of investments you want to make. And I know that there are different kinds of investments. There are thousands of different kinds of investments. And I'm oftentimes telling people that if you're a busy professional who's getting started, it is oftentimes oftentimes the easiest to get started investing through the stock market. That's the kind of investing that you can do through your work retirement accounts. That's the kind of investing that you can do through your IRAs. That's the kind of investing that you often do through your solo 401ks. And so it's oftentimes easiest to get started through the stock market. And although you can purchase individual stocks and individual bonds, those things can be quite complicated, right? When you're purchasing individual stocks, sometimes you're taking on undue risk. You may not know certain things about the company that could change the value of the stock that you are purchasing. It is very difficult to purchase individual bonds. Oftentimes, you can't purchase that on a general market. You've got to go through an individual broker. There's a lot of hidden fees that you may not realize. And so oftentimes when I'm coaching people through starting investing, we do that through mutual funds, and the kind of mutual fund that we usually do that through is an index mutual fund. So mutual fund is a collection of stocks and a collection of bonds that follow an index or follow a certain set of parameters. Things like the S&P 500, the top 500 companies in the United States, total stock market index, right? It has stocks from all the public companies in the United States. International index funds, stocks from all around the world. Those are some of your more popular ones. Those are usually the ones that are included in the default investing options at your job. And so when we're thinking about investing, you can determine your asset allocation or the kinds of investments you want to make. But oftentimes, if you're just getting started, maybe consider getting started in the stock market and getting started using some of the more common types of index funds.
Lisha, this is a great approach. And I want to pick your brain a little bit. So, sorry, I'm going to be nosy here. Okay, you might be feeling overwhelmed and you want to invest in index funds, but which index fund should you actually invest in? And I have heard many people talk about this 3-fund portfolio where they purchase like all of the US stocks, all of the US bonds, and then international stocks. Do you feel like that 3-fund portfolio is a simplistic way? Is that your approach with the 3 funds? Would you recommend that everybody just does 33%, 33%, 33%, or it should be different like asset allocation to how they're investing in these index funds? What is your approach?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say I don't think there's a one best approach for everybody. I think there are a lot of different reasonable portfolios depending on the person, your risk tolerance, and the things that you desire. So I'm not going to say everybody should do this or everybody should do that. I have obviously heard of the 3-fund portfolio. I think it helps keep things simple. Oftentimes I find that when people are getting started investing, it is the fear that it is going to be too complicated that keeps people from taking action. And so if we can simplify it and encourage people to take action, I think that's better. Because I think sometimes we're aiming for perfect and we get scared of good. And because of that, we do nothing. And so I think a good enough portfolio is good enough instead of trying to get the perfect portfolio. And so if you want to do a 3-fund approach because you like its simplicity, I think that's fine. I know some people, a lot of people who only invest in one index mutual fund, and that is the total United States stock market. They just buy all the stocks from the United States, and that is the one investment that they have. And it's been doing quite well. I know some people who make one investment, and that's just the S&P 500. They're like, you know what? That thing's efficient. That thing has really good profits, and it's cheap, and it's easy. It's simple. And so they only invest in that. I know some people who only have 2 investments, and that's a total United States stock market and a total bond fund. And the amount of stocks versus amount of bonds depends on their age. And that's usually what I tell people. You ask me, you're doing a 3-fund portfolio, do you do 30, 30, 30 in each of the 3 percentages? And I would say no, because I usually teach people to invest based on their age. And so there's different formulas that you can use. Most people will sort of use that formula of 120 minus their age should be the percentage that you should have in stocks. And so some people are more conservative than that, but that's usually what I do. 120 minus your age is the percentage that you should have in stocks. And so if I'm 30 years old, which I am not, but if I were 30 years old, 120 minus 30 is 90. So that means that I would have 90% of my money in stocks and the remaining 10% in bonds. If I was 40, 120 minus 40, 80% of my money in stocks and 20% of my money and bonds, right? You want to have some bonds that's sort of like fixed income. It helps keeps your portfolio stable, but you need to have a majority in stocks, especially when you're younger, because those give you the higher return. So you kind of want to balance risk and reward, which is why you want a combination of stocks and bonds. And I usually use that formula. So I keep things simple. When people are starting out, I usually tell them that. And I also say, you don't have to change the percentage each year, right? When you have a birthday, oh gosh, I'm 33, not 34. I'm 34, not 33. I got to change it by 1%. Maybe you change it every 5 years. And so in your example of the 3-fund portfolio, if you were 30 years old, for example, 120 minus 30 is 90. So you'd have 90% of that in stocks. So you could split that evenly and say 45% in domestic stocks and 45% in international stocks. most people want to have higher percentage in domestic stops from the United States. And so maybe they do 60% in total United States stock market and the remaining 30% in international. But that's sort of how I do it if I were doing a 3-fund portfolio.
Fantastic. And I think one of the things to recall is that when you're investing in your 401k and you're investing in a target date retirement fund, they're doing some of this switching around and asset allocation for you. So that is really important. But if you want to be more aggressive, one of the things that I've done is I've just pushed that retirement date forward. So instead of retirement at the age of 67, which I'm not going to retire at age 67, but instead of that being my selected retirement date, I just push that date forward. So it looks like I'm retiring later. And so therefore my portfolio will be more aggressive right now. And as they're switching things around, it will kind of stay more aggressive for higher returns. Of course, with higher returns, investing in stocks, there's a little bit more risk. But again, big risk, big reward. So Lisha, I love the approach that you said that for everyone, it's not the same. So you want to just understand what your risk tolerance is, and also understand that if you are young and healthy right now, you're investing for retirement, you don't necessarily need the money right now. So your strategy should be more aggressive if you're young and you don't need that money soon. And that's why with the target date retirement fund, what they do is that they change the asset allocation from more aggressive to less aggressive as you approach retirement, which is what Lisha's approach also kind of hints at with the 120 minus your age as the amount of stocks that you're investing in. All right. Well, I just want to say that it's really important that even after you start investing, I know we kind of frame this as like get started, but taking inventory of your accounts is something that I do often because sometimes the asset allocations change a bit as one investment performs better. And so now I have a higher predominance of that particular investment. So starting and taking inventory and going back to step one is something that you can do even if you're a more seasoned investor, and rebalancing your accounts to make sure that they're still meeting your goals, to make sure that the allocation is still appropriate based upon how you desire it.
And I know that we kind of touched on step 5 in this step, right? Step 4 was kind of determining the type of investments, and step 5 was choosing the right asset allocation. So once you decide, I want to do primarily stock market, or I want to do a little bit of real estate or whatever, then choosing an asset allocation for you is the next step. Brittne mentioned these target date retirement funds. I think they're a great option for anybody who's getting started investing. Whenever you invest in a target date retirement fund, they will automatically invest your money in these more popular index funds: total United States stock market, total international stock market, total United States bonds, international bonds, that sort of thing. And as Brittne mentioned, they will change the asset allocation or the percentage that is in stocks versus bonds as you age. And so I think it's a great option for anybody who is getting started investing.
All right. Well, I'm going to take us to our fun money. Lisha, I want to hear from you. How are you spending your money for fun? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I am still buying things for my friend's bachelorette cruise. Which I'm hoping will be fun. Her sister reached out and said, hey, we want to do this like cabana during one of the days of the cruise. Everybody buy this cabana day pass thing. And so I just purchased that. I've been Amazoning different clothes to match the themes of the day. This is like very detailed. It's like during the day, on this day, it's going to be pink. The theme is Barbie, and you got to wear a pink outfit during the day. And we're all going to have these matching swimsuits. And then at night, you got to wear a pink different outfit for dinner. And one theme is like cowgirl, and the next theme is like sage, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And what I know is that I have been purchasing clothes that I never thought I would purchase, buying even more swimsuits. As someone from Florida who is relatively the same size over the last 10 years, I have a gazillion bathing suits, but yet I find myself purchasing more. So I am hoping that I have a lot of fun on this bachelorette cruise. I just purchased the flight to go down. Our cruise is leaving from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I think it's going to be fun, but basically that is how I've been spending my money.
I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see the pictures. You've talked a lot about this cruise, so I'm really excited for you to give the report of all of the different themes and how this mixed like bachelor cruise thing worked out. I had never heard of this approach. I had my bachelorette party separate from my husband. So I'm curious to hear about your experience and how everything goes. For me, I am updating my kids' room. And so I've been spending money on bed, linen, drapes, and just kind of getting their room set. Brooke has been in the same bed since she was a baby. Of course, from the crib size, you have the railings, and then we converted it to the toddler bed so that she didn't fall out, but then she could still climb in. And her legs have grown a lot. I mean, we are a tall family. And so now she's like in the bed and she kind of sleeps kind of crunched up. So I was like, okay, it is time for her to have a big girl bed. And of course, because I have 2 kids and they're not the same age, but similar enough ages where if I do it for her, I also got to do it for KJ. So they are getting twin size beds and shopping for beds. Some of these beds are so cool. Like they have the cool headboards with like outlets and lights. And then sometimes they have a canopy. So I've been spending too much time looking for children's beds and finally landed on something that was pretty simple that they could adjust when they go into their own rooms.
I am excited for you. I can't wait to see which ones you purchase. I have seen photos of different themed rooms. I know both of your kids share rooms. I'm interested to see how this coordinates and sort of sets up in your home. This has nothing to do with finance for me. I'm just kind of nosy. So send me photos. Let me know what's going on as you spend this fun money upgrading your kids' rooms.
Yeah, thank you. I will. All right, people. So we hope that you have enjoyed this podcast episode. And remember, taking inventory is the first step. You don't have to invest in anything. You're just gathering information. So we really encourage you at the start of this year to implement these financial steps that we've been talking about over the past 3 episodes. If you did not listen to our first financial planning episode, go back to listen there because we want to make sure that you have a strong financial foundation for 2025. And we believe that taking action on these steps will help you to achieve your goals. Until next time, make wealth-minded decisions, and we will see you later. Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy-minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittne Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisha Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, you know. So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Pradeep Bhato and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.